Good day to you all. I hope you're having a great. I don't even know what day it is, but I knew that I wanted to cover this one as a tutorial, and I think it's going to be really exciting. It's a time of day thing for the new age. I mean, I don't know how many times we've covered this, but we've never covered it in TypeScript, and we've never covered it with the new AI skyboxes. So let's give it a go. Without further ado, we're going to jump right on in here. We have the Vidyuu template we're building coming along. New features getting added regularly. I'm going to duplicate these two pieces to create ourselves a new podium. And basically, that's just kind of how I start this. So I've got the player stats text group. There it is. And then Control D and slide that over. So for each of these, I'm kind of trying to mirror the way that it was done in the Horizon template worlds by Meta, by having podiums. And then let's go ahead and give these a good name. Time of day! I went through and just paused it. Thought that would be kind of fun and magical. Anyway, here we are, time of day. And the idea is that we're going to have a text gizmo that displays the current world time. And we're going to grab a gizmo, grab the text gizmo, and that's not bad, but let's make it perfect. Right-click, copy position, right-click, paste position, and then slide that upwards. Now I want this to look like a digital clock. So there's font equals electronic highway sign SDF, and then we'll type in, what time is it right now? It is 9:06 a.m. So 9:06 a.m. And then let's rotate that -90. There we go. Kind of want the AM to be spaced a little bit, I think. There we go. Oh no, sneeze. Sorry, there's just some like pollen and allergens in the air. Auto fit I'm going to turn off. We're going to set that to a magical 4, maybe even a 3. There we go, very nice. And then you can imagine like setting this on an alarm clock or something. And that looks pretty good. So now that we have this time set up, we have the formatting set up. I'm going to copy this. And what we want to do first is get it to actually count through all 24 hours of the day. So let's create a script, new script, and call this the time of day text underscore entity. There we go. And then we're going to attach that time of day text script and edit script. There we are. Let me get that up into the viewable area for you guys. That is pretty good. Right about there should do the trick. And we'll click allow. All right, and then as you probably are aware by now, I delete the first line because I don't like HC dots. That's of course a personal preference, but I do welcome you to join me. And then I click Control period to re-import component. You can also backspace the T and retype the T, clicking Enter to import. Okay. With this set up, I wanted to do a, brain, slow down. I have a piece of paper with everything that I want to do, and one of the big things I want to do is make it so that 10 minutes equals 1 hour. So I want to create a property that says how many minutes does it take to pass 1 hour. And I think we need to come up with a name for that makes sense. So it's a conversion factor, right? So 10 minutes to 1 hour is a 6x conversion. And so it's 6 times faster. So speed multiplier. There we go. Time multiplier. I'm getting better at naming, aren't I? So we'll create our first property called time multiplier. And time multiplier will be type colon prop types dot number and comma default colon, and the default here is going to be, I was thinking 6, but if we leave it at 1, it'll actually go with real time. And we needed to catch this really fast. So if I wanted it to be every minute is a second, then I need it to be 60 times faster. So let's start with 60. And I'll leave a comment here that says, ideally leave at 1 or 6. because 1x would be real time and 6x would be the ideal time for me. And the reason I want to do 6x is because I feel like that makes things take a decent enough time. Because remember, we're going to be swapping out skyboxes, so it gives enough time for each skybox to be in the sky. Okay. Without it like taking literally all day. Although if you wanted it to take all day, that would be cool too. So our time multiplier is set up. We are going to create a start time that is 0, 0. So we're going to say constant, or not constant, we're going to say current time equals 0. And then on start, we're going to create a loop. So here's our loop. And this is just to, well, let's actually not create a loop. Let's instead create a new value called increment time. And then increment time is going to update the text. So we'll create another method called update text. And we know that this is running on a text object. So let's just, for getting this started, we'll like work our way backwards. We'd say this.entity.as parentheses text gizmo, and then .text.set. And then I'm just going to fill this out with our default from earlier. So Control V, because I had that copied. I guess I didn't have it copied. Let's go back to here. Control C, back into code, and Control V. There we go. So we have this. So we know where we're going. And to get a time out of this current time is kind of tough. But we also know that increment time needs to increment current time. So we'll say current time plus plus. And then the way that I've been doing this recently was inspired by some code I saw. I want to say it was Telus wrote. So thank you, Telus, for showing me this really cool trick. So you say current time equals, and then parentheses, current time plus 1, and then we know that there is only so much time in a day. So then modulus the amount of time in a day. Now I don't want to have to do the math every single time, so I'm going to declare a constant even outside of the class. Constant. This will be called, since we're doing it by minutes, minutes in a day. And minutes in a day is 24 hours multiplied by 60. Shift Alt F. So we can then say mod minutes in a day. And so every time we're incrementing the time, we're going up by 1 minute. That's helpful. We're going to need to know that here in just a second. And then once we increment the time, we need to update the text. So we call the update text method. And now to increment the time once per minute, we would say async dot set interval parentheses, and then parentheses arrow function, curly braces, comma. And so 1 minute is 60_123. That's the time. We want to call increment time once per minute. And now this is real time. Now to speed this up by 6x or 10x, or in this case 60x, we want to divide by this number. And I just want to work this math out in my head, because like as much as I'm pretty confident that's correct, I want to see it. So up here I'm just going to do a little bit of sketching. And so we're going to imagine 60,000 divided by 60, so a 60x multiplier, that turns into 1,000. Okay, that's 1 second. Now I wanted to do a 6x multiplier, so 60,000 divided by 6 turns into 10,000, meaning it'll go up by 1 minute every 10 seconds. Perfect, this looks good. And then of course 60,000 divided by 1 is 60,000. So the math does check out. So all we need to do is take this 60,000 and divide it by the multiplier. So what I'm going to do is put this in parentheses. I'm going to type math.floor in front of this. I don't think that's necessary, but we're doing it anyway. And then we're going to divide by props.time multiplier. And I got my semicolon at the end. Booyah. So now that we've got our async set up, this is going to increment 1 minute per second. The problem is we're just not displaying that yet. So we need some way to calculate the current hour and the current minute. And then we need to calculate that out of a current time value. And that current time value, I think for now, we should just visualize the current time. Let's like see a baby step, make sure it's working. So I'm going to go to the end of this and type break and then after the break, add current time dot toString. So what this is going to do, it's on the line below our kind of like example line of what we want it to look like. It's going to show the actual current time value, and then I'm going to show you how to convert that into a time of day. So head back into Horizon, console clear, and world simulation on. There we go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now this is going to count up forever. And what we know is every 60 of these is an hour. We also know that these values represent the right-hand value up until the first 60. So this is the number of minutes. We also know that a 0 value is 12. So there's a lot of like things to consider. And we also know that if it's greater than half a day, it's PM. So there's a lot of these little things we need to know to make this, correlate correctly. Also, when the value is below 10, we want to add a 0 to the front. So it's 0.6, for instance. So let's see this lap over. It's not going to lap over. It's going to just go to 61. But yeah, I think that's good. I think we're ready. There's a lot there to unpack. It's a lot of like math, but once you've done it probably 10 times, and I'm saying seriously, once you've done this 10 times, it'll start feeling very comfortable. This first time is going to be really uncomfortable if you've never done this before. Now, I've done this a lot. I've made a lot of clocks. So for me, this is relatively easy because basically every game timer ever built I had to do the same way. So let's start by thinking about this in terms of AM or PM. I think that's the easiest. So we're going to say constant postfix equals, and we're going to then say, one of my favorite features right now is to do parentheses and then type current time is greater than, and if we know that current time is greater than 12 times 60, we're in the afternoon. So that is half of minutes in a day. So I'm going to Control Z and call this half minutes in a day, and that will be 12. I don't know what's easier, to take this and divide it by 2. I think we will divide it by 2 in case we decide to change it from minutes in a day to something else. So we'll say minutes in a day divided by 2. And so right here we can say half minutes in a day. So if the current time is greater than half minutes in a day, we can then use question mark to say, if this is true, we want to return space PM, else we want to return space AM. So we're creating a string for this postfix that is either PM or AM. And because this is kind of unclear, and we also need to think about less than or equals to, let's try to work this out in our brain. And I'm going to do that by sharing my camera and kind of like using my hands to figure it out. So 60 represents an hour, and we have 12 of those, right? So when we get to the 0 represents 12 AM. That makes sense. That one checks out. So then we go to another 60, which represents 1 AM. So you go 1 AM, 2 AM, 3 AM, 4 AM. The problem is when you get to 12, which is noon, noon is PM. So it needs to be greater than or equal to, because 60 times 12 is noon, and noon is not less than. So it needs to be greater than or equal to. We could also say, if it is less than, then we don't need the greater than or equal to, because less than 12 would be everything that's AM. So we're going to switch to less than. Okay. So we need to reverse this and say if it's less than half minutes in a day, we know that it's AM, and if it's greater, we know that it's PM. Okay, so that's our postfix. The postfix goes here. I'm going to delete this break and the space. I'm going to remove current time to string because we're going to calculate that above, and we're just going to add the postfix. All right. Now we have our font here. Now we need to get this 9. So to get that 9 is a little bit tricky because of 0 being 12. And so I'm thinking if we use modulus that's going to be the trick. So there's a couple tricks here that need to happen. Number one, we need to say let current hour equal, and we're going to calculate the current hour imagining that 0 will be turned into 12. So we say current hour equals the current time divided by 60. Now current time divided by 60 is going to represent 0 for the first 60. If we type math.floor, it removes all of the decimal places after that 0. So you'd say, let's say it was 30. 30 divided by 60 is 0.5. Math.floor removes the 0.5. Now let's say it's 90. That's 1.5. That will remove the 0.5 and return 1, which we know would be 1 a.m. So we're on the right track here. The problem is, if this value returns 0, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is pretty sketch, but if we type question mark 12, I'm not sure if this would work. I've never tried anything like this, but a 0 is considered falsy, so this question mark should check for 0 and say if it's falsy, return 12, which means we wouldn't need to make this a constant. Now if this doesn't work, we'll make it a let again, and then we will we'll use if it's equal to 0, then set it to 12. So what we can do now is delete the 9, put in a single tick here and a single tick there, add a couple plus symbols, and then right in the middle, add current hour, Shift-Alt-F to make it pretty. And you can see that we take the font, we add the current hour, and we just got this :06. And I want to test this. I want to just see if this is working as I expect it to, or if that was total, utter, not real coding. But you know, I want to share this with you. Many times, a lot of what I spend time coding is figuring stuff out. So look at that, it doesn't work. Well, we sure as heck tried, didn't we? So unfortunately, that does not work. But that's a-okay. Darn, I was really hopeful that that was going to work. If you knew that wasn't going to work, props to you. Now, I bet there is a way to write this in one line, but I think the easiest way to do this is to just say parentheses, no, if parentheses current hour triple equals 0, curly braces current hour equals 12. Okay, that's basically what I wanted to do with that special simplification. There might be a way to simplify that, but this is great. Okay, now that we know that that will for sure work, we can now calculate the minute. And now this one we're going to do the exact same way. We're going to say let current minute equal, but the math is slightly different because we now need to remove the current hour from the current time because we just need the seconds. Check this out though. The modulus symbol, that's what it does. So I'm going to write it and then I'm going to explain it. If we take current time and then say modulus 60, this will return the remaining seconds. So I want to explain this for anyone who's never done modulus before. If you've done modulus, you're like, oh, I love modulus. It makes our life so easy. But if you've never done it, it's kind of confusing. So let's imagine instead of modding 60, we modded 10. This will be easy to explain. Okay, so we have current time, which increments from 0, and it goes all the way up forever. For now, we'll just imagine it goes forever. And so we say 0 mod 10 is 0, so it's returning 0 so far. 1, also 1, 2, also 2, and you get all the way to 9, and it's still 9. And the trick is when it's equal to. So 10 mod 10 will return 0, and that's because it's returning the remainder. And so 10 divided by 10, there's no remainder. Whereas everything below 10, there was no full amount. It was all remainder. So we go to 11. 11 divided by 10 has a remainder of 1. So 11 mod 10 is 1. 12 is 2. 13 is 3. And it continues like that. 20 returns 0. 30 returns 0. And 31 returns 1, and so on. So hopefully that explains the modulus. It also works for intervals of 60, so it's going to be perfect for us. So when it's 61, it returns 1. When it's 62, it returns 2. When it's 120, it returns 0. 121 is 1, and so on. Okay. Oh, accidentally closed Horizon. Let me boot that back up before we get ourselves some weird issues. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we are just landing back in. Here we are, moving that back over. We should be good now, hopefully. All right, so current minutes. Now we understand how current minutes is working. 0 does exist. And current minutes, though, it does need to be a string. Currently, it's a number. And let's see. I guess there's, yeah, let's turn it into a string. So parentheses, oops, Control Z, parentheses, and then at the very end we'll type .toString, .toString, there we go. And if we hover over current minutes, we can now see it's a string. The problem is, if the value is less than 10, we need to use, we need to add a 0 to the front end of it. So if we type if, parentheses, current minute dot length, returns the length of a string, is triple equals 1. So if it's equal to 1, we can then say current minute equals 0 plus current minute. And so that's going to add a 0 to the front end of current minute. We can then come back over here where we had 06, go ahead and backspace, add an extra plus symbol right there, add current minute, and now we should have this actually working. So let's go ahead and hit Control Save, and I'm gonna backspace there. Nicely done. That looks phenomenal. All right, back into Horizon. Let's go find our little text gizmo over here. Here it is. Time of day. Console clear. World simulation on. 12:01 a.m., 12:02, 12:03. Very nice. That is working out phenomenally. Now, it needs to go faster, so let's go into our code and change the multiplier from 60 to 600. So it'll go 10 times per second. That should be fine. That'll allow us to really see the whole thing. Okay, that looks like it's finished. World simulation on. There it goes. Looking good so far, and we're at 1 a.m. There's a problem with 12 in that it does shift the whole thing. So if you wanted this to line up perfectly, 12 kind of throws it off. So we could add a 0 in front of it. I'm not sure if regular clocks do that. We're gonna let that keep rolling while I open up Chrome. I'm gonna see if I can find a, come on, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm really bad with Windows. Like, you think I'd get better after using it for years with Horizon, but no, I just cannot. I'm a Mac person through and through. Okay, so what I wanted to search while we're looking at that is digital clock. Pictures, images. Yeah, see, they only display on the left side. We need to basically add a space. So like if this was to like be put onto a digital clock, we'd want it to not have that space there. I have some tricks to make that work. And I think we're just gonna use one of my tricks. Oh, look, we're at 12 p.m. Forgot to watch that. That's good though. So yeah, that is working phenomenally. Let's see it trip over back to 1 a.m. And that's going to be in a moment. So while we're waiting that moment, I want to think about the code from a standpoint of, what am I thinking? Sorry, my brain is just doing too many things at once. Oh, adding the space. Now this font specifically is very clearly monospaced. What that means is when we switch it to, oh wait, look at this. I see a mistake. I didn't catch it because I was reading it as military time. We'll need to do one additional mod on the current hour. It'll be easy to fix. 23, and let's see that lap over. Nice. Good stuff. World simulation off. Okay, so there's a few things to fix. Let's start with the easiest one. The easiest one is right here for current hour. We were doing current time divided by 60. what we need to do is wrap current time in an additional modulus with the half time in a day. So half minutes in a day. And so by modding this by half minutes in a day, once we get halfway through the day, it's going to loop back to the beginning and then divide by 60. So that'll be good. Now the problem is current hour is a number, which is fine. I did forget to type .toString here. But we're going to convert current hour to be a string. So we're going to wrap it in parentheses and then type .toString. And now current hour cannot triple equals 0, but it can triple equals 0. And so in that case, we'll single text here. So now current hour is a string. It also allows us to do the same thing we did with current minutes. And so if we type if current hour dot length is triple equals 1, so single digits, we can then say, and this I'm not sure if it'll work, but we'll say current hour equals space plus current hour. So we're going to add 1 space to it. Control save. Now that might work because this font is monospaced, meaning that it has the same amount of spacing for each character. Normally monospacing isn't the default. Let me go reopen Chrome for just a second. I want to show you there's a text formatting on the Learn website. Check out the text entry tutorial. Wrote this last year. Pretty decent. In here, you'll find all the text formatting options, which is one of the biggest reasons to look at this. Here it is, all the text formatting options. And you'll see that you have character spacing right here, which is how much space is between each character, I believe. And then we have, where's monospace? M space, that's what it's called. Equal spacing, M space, monospacing. And so here you can tell it how much space to give each character. So anyway, lots of features in here. Here's all the font options. I don't think any others other than electronic highway sign have equal spacing. So hopefully that equal spacing means that the space bar will have the same spacing as a regular character. If it didn't, I would just simply throw mono spacing on there. Or I could make the character invisible using color. The alpha channel of a color allows you to make it transparent. So right here is with transparency. So you could set that to 0 so it's invisible. Anyway, there's lots of features and lots of ways to make things work. There's always more the way than one does. Cannot speak. There's more than one solution in programming. So let's take a look and see if this one worked. World simulation on. We are at 12. Once it laps over, we should see it go to 1, but stay with the 1 right here. And it did. Look at that. So that space is doing the trick. Very good. Okay, so with that set up, we probably should check it going to the next time. So let's double up the speed again to, we'll go to 6,000. Why not? 100 times per second. That's not going to break anything. It might. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It should be fine, I hope. World simulation on. There it goes. Lightning speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we're in the afternoon, and it does loop correctly. There we go. The numbers are working just fine. That's what we wanted to check. Perfect. All right, so the good news is we've got this set up correctly. We're going to go set the default back to 60 for now. Actually, yeah, for now. And now that the text updates correctly, the next thing we want to look at is changing out the skybox. So let's go back to camera view. Hello again. So, okay, good. I have my notes. Thankfully, I have my notes. And I wrote this up really clearly last night before bed. And I was like, do I want to do this before bed? And I was like, nope, I need my sleep. So here I am, fresh and in the morning. Initial time we've got set to 0. And that works. Like, there's no reason that doesn't work. If you have an experience that you want to feel the same every single time, having a set start time makes sense. You could start the world always at 5 p.m. You could start the world at whatever time you want. I would like to use the real world, okay? So I'm based in Pacific time, but most of my team is on the East Coast, so we're gonna use the East Coast time. I'm gonna pretend that that's the reason. Maybe I'll even just tell you. We're building Slumber Party. You've probably seen it in some of our other videos at this point. And in that world, we're basing it in the, quote, Bahamas, which is also on East Coast time. That's the real reason I'm using East Coast time. We're doing Bahama time. It says it right here in my notes. Based on Bahamas. So that's GMT -4. So we can get the current Greenwich Mean Time through our code, and then we just need to subtract 4 from that, and we know that that is our start time. Sorry, it's a little loud outside. But let's go ahead and try this out and see if we can get this started. Now, there will be some things we're going to have to account for. And if you've seen some of the past videos on time of day, you might have seen this before. So current time is currently set to 0. Now, on start, we need to calculate the current time. So let's go ahead and say current time equals date. You know what? I don't know if I've done this in here we go. There's our universal, like I don't know if I've done this in TypeScript before, actually. UTC, yeah, we want UTC, and we just need the hours. Wow, this might actually be way easier than I imagined. Okay, so we get date.utc okay, so this returns something. So we're gonna say constant UTC equals date.utc, Control X, Control V, there we go. And if we hover over UTC, we can see that it's a JSON object. So these curly braces mean it's a JSON object. It has the year, the month, the date, the hours, and the minutes. We only care about the hours and the minutes, and it doesn't tell us a ton about the hours and minutes, but we can infer quite a bit from it. Like I'm pretty sure these hours are going to be in military format, like counting up to 2359. So hours, minutes. It's interesting. It seems like I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Why there's 2 of them, but I think we're okay. So now we have this UTC element here. I don't think I have to type get. Do I need to type get? Do I need like a parentheses? No. Dot. There's nothing. It's just that. That's it. Okay. Got it. So now that we have current time, we can then say current time needs to be, let's just start with the hours. So if we take UTC dot, oh, that didn't work. Oh, we need dot apply, parentheses. Wow, that didn't work. How does this thing work? Okay, hover over it again. Date constructor. Oh, it's a, what? Welcome to somebody not ever using this before. Now this is actually a great time to use ChatGPT to get an example, and I probably should. Universal time is what I want. It says returns the number of milliseconds between midnight. That's date.now. What? Oh, it returns the number of milliseconds since a specific date. Okay. Got it. Got it, got it, got it. Okay, so UTC does something very different than what I expected. Date.now is probably what we want, which gives us the number of milliseconds since UTC. We can then mod that by the number of milliseconds in a day, but I think there's a better way to do this. So let's just set this to 0 for now, and I just want to go and show a great example use of ChatGPT. So here we go. Let's see, where should we begin? TypeScript example of getting current hours and minutes in GMT minus 4. Okay. Here we go. Ah, this is what I was looking for. I knew I'd seen this before. New date. That gives us what we're looking for. And then now dot get time. So date, time zone offset. That's an hour. I don't know what this is, but okay. Let's go look into some of this. The offset, oh, multiplied by 1 hour, okay. Weird. Time zone offset is set right here to be minus 4. Okay, that makes sense. So it takes, I don't know what this number correlates to. It's like a bunch of hours or minutes. Maybe that, I don't know. I didn't do the math in my head fast enough. Get hours, get minutes. This is wild. I think we can learn from this. I'm gonna set it off to the side. Come on, get off to the side. Do your thing. Let's see what we can do. So we wanted to say new date. That's so weird. Why have new date? Parentheses. What is this new date? New date is a date, and then dot get time, get hours, returns the stored time values in milliseconds. Why is it using get time plus get time zone offset? Gets the difference in minutes between universal coordinated time and the time on the local computer. Now that's peculiar. Get UTC date. Hey, gets the day of the month using universal coordinated time. UTC day, UTC full year, UTC hours, UTC milliseconds. Okay, now we're here. We finally found it. Get UTC, get the hours value in the date object using universal coordinate time. Okay, so we're just gonna save this as a date. I don't know why that you have to do this, but for whatever reason, this is the method. I've never done it before. I almost always use the time since like the epoch time in milliseconds. So this is a first for me. We're gonna go ahead and say hours, noting that in code blocks, because this I've only ever done this in code blocks, we actually had a way to get the current hours. So this is just learning. Constant hours equals, oh, think, date dot get hours. Now this gets the hours. Wait, this says get hours in local time? But that's for the server. That's very curious. I'm wondering what this is going to get. Because that is actually what I wanted. Like I wanted to know if somebody logs in in Europe, like originally that was the idea, but I didn't think there was a way to do this. If someone logged in Europe, I'd want it to be their time. So let's say console.log hours. Is it my hours? Is it accurate? What happens if we load a server with this? I don't know. There's a lot of questions here. Clear. World simulation on. All right, it logged 9. It is actually 9 a.m. So it did get my time. It could also be that the servers are just on this coast. Oh my goodness. Can we get the time of a user by using... I can't switch time zones. I'm not physically able to change time zones, but... Okay, if we go to Worlds on my Chrome browser over here, and then we go to preview mode. Oh, I won't be able to see the console. Dang it. Okay, let's finish the coding first. Wrong button. This one. Okay, so we had the hours, and so we can say current time, Control X, semicolon, Control C, Control V, minutes. I do think this is the way to go. Like, I was really only using Bahamas because I had to. This is an exciting opportunity to use the real world time for the person who logged in. And maybe I'll go to 1x. So current time equals 0. Think through this, think it through. Current time equals 0. What I want to do is take hours and multiply it by 60 minutes plus minutes. And then put this in parentheses, although order of operations should have handled that, but it's easier to read this way too. So we take the hours multiplied by 60 plus minutes, that equals our current time. And then control save. So, very curious. I'm also wondering if you have to run like a local script to get the user's current date. Like maybe it'll always be on the server otherwise, which makes sense. But maybe they have servers in Europe, so maybe you don't even need to think about that. I'm not sure. All right, world simulation on. That started at 9:10, but it is 9:40 here. Why does it think it is 9:10? I mean, we are close. Oh, this is get hours. It's supposed to be get minutes. There we go. Control save. Okay, so my current time is 9:48 a.m. World simulation on. 9:49, 9:50, so on. That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Okay, so now we go back to Chrome, hit preview version 0. If you haven't been to this website, horizon.meta.com/worlds, you can update your worlds and stuff, do all sorts of cool things here. All right, here we are. Let's go check out that timer, 9:53. That is local time. Nice. Just wonder what would happen. I need someone from the East Coast to log in and test this, which I don't have anyone online that I can ping. But no, that was pretty amazing. That was pretty amazing. So, yeah. Think. Kind of just love it. I think we're gonna go with that. Oh, sorry, wrong button again. We're definitely going to go with this. But what I want to do is make this start method relatively easy to set up. And so we're going to sync local time, parentheses, curly braces, and we're going to move all of this down and into here. And then I can just call on start sync local time. And then if we change this to 1, it will now be in sync with our time. Now, we are not going to do that just yet because the test today is to test, and I'm going to actually change this back to 60,000 now. The test today is to test spawning in, sorry, my brain is slow. Come on, brain. We want to spawn in a gizmo, a skybox gizmo, and we need to know when to spawn the gizmo, and we need to know, so right here in increment time, we call update text, but we also need to like check for and spawn gizmo. So we're going to create another method. Check. I think we'll update text first now that I think about it. Right here. Oh, we haven't created the method, so that's why it's not happy. Start down here and type check for, is it because I have Chrome open? If I close Chrome, is my thing going to pick up speed? Check for environment or Skydome. Check for Skydome shift. It does seem to, oh my gosh. Oh no, it's still laggy, whatever. Okay, so we want to check for sky dome shift. And the idea is that we're going to look in a map, see if matching array, spawn random gizmo. That is kind of my long-term goal. I'm gonna say for you guys, for anyone who's advanced, this is something I did kind of want to show you how to do it. It's a little too advanced, especially because we're already almost at an hour for this video, and this would definitely take us to like 2 hours. This is something worth trying. The idea is that you have a map. We're going to be making one in a second anyway. And when you go to set the map, if there's no array there, you create a new array. If there is an array there, you add to that array. And then basically you can have an array of items and then choose one at random when it's time to spawn it. It's very cool. So that I'm going to leave for myself for later. And for you guys, we're going to do it slightly different. We're just going to have a map. Now, what is wrong with the code? Oh, I need to write the rest of this. Check for sky dome shift. There we go. So we update the current time, we update the text, and then we check for a sky dome shift. So we know that the current time is in minutes in a day. We know that we need a time of day sky dome reference, something like that. Something like that, like an empty or whatnot. Unfortunately, for sky domes, there is no way to just turn them off and on. So if we go into the world's desktop editor and find the sky dome for this world, which I assume there it is, you can't just turn the active property, which is mind-blowing that we don't have that feature. Like, it'd be just so easy just to flip these on and off. But unfortunately, we have to actually spawn them in to change the active state of one that's already in the world. It's a little crazy, but it is a good workaround that we can use to our advantage. I want to just double check, just in the off chance that in the latest update they added this feature, because I swear things have been changing so quickly recently, it's possible. If we go to Horizon Core and we search for Command F, environment, here we have environment stuff there. We only have 3 environment settings, and that's it. Let's search for gizmo, and here we have the text gizmo. I was hoping to find the environment gizmo, asset pool gizmo, spawn point gizmo, text gizmo, trigger gizmo, lots on the trigger gizmo, particle gizmo, let's see, only 100 more to go through, audio gizmo, sound gizmo. I was looking for like, but like they might have named it Sky Dome, so I could just search Sky Dome. I'm worried that it could be in here as a gizmo that I wouldn't recognize. In-world item gizmo, raycast gizmo, maybe I'm going too fast anyway gizmo, dynamic light gizmo, AI agent gizmo, shop gizmo, avatar pose gizmo, or I'm going to see something I'm not supposed to tell you about gizmo, audio gizmo, audio gizmo, audio gizmo. I think we are in the home stretch here. Avatar pose. What is this one? Oh, this is the pose gizmo? Okay, we're still in avatar pose gizmo. Keep going. Lots there on avatar pose gizmo. There's the text gizmo, asset pool gizmo, spawn point, and we looped back around. Okay, so just double checking. Sky Dome is not in here. Sky, not in here. Oh, Sky was. No, it wasn't. Environment. Yeah, there's no way to change this. I'm very hopeful, but no, there really isn't. So it was worth a check, just in case. Now, the reason it's worth a check is because what we're about to do next is so insanely difficult. But let's go ahead and do it. So time of day. We need to create some new scripts. So script, create new, time of day underscore data. We're gonna need that. And we need a time of day You know what? We can put it all in the data file. Oh, we totally can. We totally can. Okay, delete that. So let's go straight to the data file. Nope, not Chrome. Sorry, Chrome. I didn't mean to click on you. I was trying to go to this one. All right, time of day data is right here. Control A, backspace, export constant named time of day underscore data equals curly braces. There we go. And then we need to put some data in here. And so I think the easiest, like I did want to do a map, but is that the way to go? I think so. I think so. Yeah, because then we can tie it to a time. So we can say, this is going to be a little bit hacky, but we're going to grab minutes in a day, Control X. We'll fix it in just a second, Control V. And we're going to say backspace, minutes in a day is no longer equal to, you just use a colon instead of equals, and then it's a comma, Shift Alt F to make it pretty. So we said minutes in the day is 24 times 60, so we've calculated that here, so this is a number. Then we can create a map called environment assets map equal, or not equals, colon, which is a new map of type number to asset and parentheses, comma. Okay. So you can take a number and map an asset to that number. You can input a number and get an asset out of that number. That's the idea. Now that that is set up, we can come down here and then add to this map by saying time of day dot asset map dot set parentheses, and then if we take time of day data dot minutes in a day, multiply this by the time that we want this to occur. Oh, I didn't do this right. All right, it was a good thought, but it was totally wrong. So close. So close. Now we can use this. We can totally use this. So I want to first come over here and fix this. So this needs to reference the time of day data dot minutes in a day, and then Control C, paste that wherever else we used it, right there. There we go. Control save. And then if we multiply this by a value, this is a lot of math for one line, parentheses, math.floor. Okay, so the idea is that we're going to take the floor, so that this is always a whole number. Then we're going to take minutes in a day and multiply it by a fraction. So if we said, let's say we want to start the day at 7 a.m. So 7 divided by 24 is 7 a.m. If you did 7.5, that would be 7:30 a.m. and so on. So this fraction is going to allow us to set the time of day pretty clearly. Then after that, we need to set the asset. And this is where this is starting to get a little bit long, but we're just going to keep rolling with it for now. I'm going to add a semicolon to the end while I'm at it. New asset, parentheses, and you need to use a big int. So we're going to say big int, parentheses, and then single ticks. And now we need an asset ID. I believe I have one of these on standby from a different world I was working on. We have this one here. So let me create a new folder so we can have a set of public ones to share. Here's my GenAI assets. The problem is that these don't spawn unless you, the problem is they don't spawn unless you create an asset out of them. So I'm going to create a new folder and call this time of day assets. Like the whole asset thing is so much extra work compared to just using isActive. But anyway, we're just gonna keep rolling with it. It's fine. So here's our time of day assets folder. We have this one here, which is Gen AI, which means I can give it away. By the way, I made this terrain in the Vidyuu terrain generator. There's information on our website. Pretty neat. At some point, I'll have to make another tutorial. I did one like a year and a half ago when I made the terrain generator, but anyway, need to go back to that. We're going to create an asset out of this. Let's give this asset a good name. Right-click, create asset. Put this into the time of day assets. Go ahead and name this asset like morning, sunrise. This looks like a sunrise. So we'll call that sunrise and press create. All right. So that could be sunrise. I can get down with that being sunrise. Now, if we click on this asset we've created, we can copy the asset ID, and then we'll go back into VS Code and paste that asset ID right here. Sorry for the jump scare. It's been a hot minute. Some things have happened in the last however many minutes it's been since we were last here. But first of all, it looks like parts of the internet are down, which sounds like a dystopian story, but it's not that big of a deal. I just had a message in the Discord about the AI generation tool not working, so I wasn't actually able to generate a skydome. I was thinking I might give this another shot, as it has been a while since I've tried this. Let's close it. Gen AI, try one more time, generate a sky. So for reference, this is where you go to generate the skydomes, and you can select one of the visual styles here and give these a few shots till you get what you're looking for. In this case, I want to do blue sky with fluffy clouds in the distance. And I want it to be a bright blue sky day. Bright blue sky with fluffy clouds in distance, sun at high noon. Now this did sort of work, but then at the very end it stopped working. So I'm expecting it to do the same thing. Anyway, here's what it is. But I have a few of these generated already, so we're just going to use the ones that I have in my generation thing. So running back in here, we've pasted the asset ID in, and that will add this to the list. And because it fits on a nice line, it's not perfect, but it's decent enough, we can hit Control-C, Control-V. And this is where I think a function might actually make this a lot easier. Check this out. If we go down here and type function, add new time, and then we type hour in day, which will be of the type number, and then a asset ID, which will be of type string, and then curly braces. We can move this line down into here, and then pass the asset ID right here into the big int. And then instead of 7, we'll swap that with hour in the day. There we go. And now we can call this function to add a new value, and it'll be a lot easier to read. So add new time, parentheses, passing in 7.5, comma, and the other one is, let's see, sorry, my brain slowed down, this value right here. Control-C, Control-V, very nice. Control-X. So right here is where we're adding the time with the associated asset ID, and then down here is the function that actually does that, adding it to the map. We can then Control-C, Control-V to add another. So let's go find another time of day to use with this. I think for now we're actually going to just have 3 of these set up with the same, and then we'll adjust it to be something else in a minute. So let's imagine we want one to take over at 9:30 a.m. So 7:30 a.m. is when we get sunrise, 9:30 a.m. we'll do a full day, and then Control-C, Control-V, and then around 5 p.m., so 17:30, we'll do sunset, Control-C, Control-V, and 19:30 we'll do night, and then Maybe in the middle of the night we'll do something special. Control-C, Control-V. And the middle of the night at, let's say, 1 a.m. So 1:30 a.m. I don't know why we're doing all of these on half. They don't have to be on half hours. We'll do something special in the middle of the night. So we're going to have all of these times. There's one thing I recognized when thinking about this, which is that it's not going to spawn in the first one, and we need to adjust for that. So I'm going to turn down the volume of my other Discord over here so it doesn't bother you guys. So when we start the day up, we need to figure out what was the previous day value. By using a map, that's not exactly the easiest. It's like closest without going over. So right here we have sync local time, and then we should have another one called spawn start gizmo. There we go. And so right here we're going to call spawn start gizmo. And in the spawn start gizmo, we want to go through all of those map options and figure out which one to use. So we're going to say constant asset, or no, not constant, sorry. This will be a let. Asset be of type asset or undefined. And then we can say, going to the time of day data dot map. Oh, we need to know the current time. So asset time is going to be a number. So we'll say equals -1. Sure, that should work. So environment map, parentheses, parentheses, arrow function, curly braces. And what we're going to do is for, oh, I need to type dot for each, sorry. Getting ahead of myself, dot for each. And so for each of these assets, and they have a key. The key is the time in minutes. And this should be the asset to spawn. And then this is the asset to spawn time. And so what we can do is say, we want to get as close as possible to the current time. So if we said, let's see, if we set this value to start at time of day dot minutes in a day, this would be the maximum amount of time. This would be, it would be 24 hours off. So that would be crazy. What we would then do is say, if parentheses excuse me, we want to figure out which time is closest. Excuse me. And we don't care about whether it's positive or negative. So we want to figure out which one's closest. Let me think about that for another moment. Okay, I don't know why I was overthinking it. It's actually really simple. We just do math.abs, which is absolute value, and we get the absolute value of the time, subtract the time. It doesn't matter which one. I think I was trying to think about it from like, which one's going to be higher. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to take current time and subtract the time in minutes. And what this will do is return the difference, like how far away it is. And this math if statement is not done, but I just wanted to quickly explain this better. So the easiest way to think about this is if you take the number 10 and you subtract 12, you get -2. If you take 12 and subtract 10, you get +2. And if you take the absolute value of that, it's always positive, so it takes the negative and converts it to 2. So now you have both returning 2. That's the distance between the numbers. So it doesn't matter which order you do them in, you're going to get the difference between the two. So with that difference calculated, we can then say if that difference is less than the, we're going to call this closest time, closest time. So if that value is less than the closest time, which it should be because minutes in a day is going to start at the maximum value, then it's going to say, okay, we found a closer time. So we now say asset to spawn. Asset to spawn equals the asset, and the closest time equals the closest time. Very nice. And so now that we have this set up, this will go through all of them and figure out which one is closest and save that as the asset to spawn. We then need to spawn that start gizmo. We haven't done any asset spawning in here yet, so what we have to do first is define like what is the asset that spawned. So we need to call that current spawned skydome is of type asset or undefined. Skydome, there we go. And then down here, I'm gonna add an extra space there because I like it. Down here, when we spawn that gizmo, spawning does require things to be async, so we need to type async here. And what async allows us to do is it allows to say current spawned skydome equals await, and then we wait for the skydome to spawn, and then to spawn the skydome, we say world dot spawn asset, parentheses. The asset we want to spawn is the asset to spawn. We don't really need to provide a position and all that, so we'll just set it to vec3.0. There we go. Now this is upset because the asset to spawn could be undefined, and because of that, we'll type if parentheses asset to spawn is defined, and let's see. This is upset because this is supposed to be of type asset, but when you spawn something, it's actually an entity. That was just my bad. It's always hard to remember that spawned assets are entities. So anyway, that needs to be an entity. Now the second reason it's upset is because it's looking at it and it's sorry, I just need to breathe for a second. I want to make sure I explain this very clearly. When you go to spawn an asset, even if it's a single item like this, it is potentially more than one item. And because it's potentially more than one item, it is always returned as an array. So you get it in square brackets. So there's a list. And even if there is just one item in that array, it's always returned as a list. And so in this case, we know that it will guaranteed always be one. So don't make a weird complicated group when you're saving these assets and adding them to this array. As long as it's saved the same way that you saw me save it, just one item being saved, this will work because we're going to get the item at index 0 from this array. Okay. So the problem is we need item at index 0, but we have to await, and we can't just like tag on square brackets. I tried this the other day. It's like, no, that doesn't work. It has to be awaited. I guess we could theoretically throw this in parentheses and then tag on square brackets. Does that work? Yo, let's go. That's smart. That's some big brain right there. I'm just playing, but that's crazy. I definitely made that way more complicated the other day. Nice. Okay, so now we've got the item at index 0 in the array that spawned set to be the current spawn skydome. And with that done, we can go one step further. This is just really skipping a few steps here because we should test this and make sure it's all working. But the check for skydome shift, if we do a very simple if statement, we say constant current asset equals, and then go to the time of day data file, and then dot map dot get. If we get the current time, then that will return either an asset if the time matches one of the items in the map, or it will return an asset or undefined, right? And so we can then say if parentheses current asset triple equals, or excuse me, if current asset is defined, excuse me, we then need to delete the other spawned gizmo. So we say world.delete asset, parentheses, current spawned sky dome. And what we also want to do is add some awaits in here using async. And it also wants to verify that it is valid. So we need to say if parentheses current spawn sky dome, curly braces, alt arrow up. And then after we delete it, we will want to await this. So you type await, so wait for it to finish deleting. Then we can say current spawn sky dome equals await. And then we need to do this the same way as before. So we need to type parentheses, await, and then world dot spawn asset parentheses, and that is the current asset. And then we need to make sure to select square brackets 0. Oh, and it needs the position set to vec3 0, vec3 dot 0. What did I do wrong? Spawn asset, current asset at position 0. Oh, I put a parentheses here, that's what it is. And the parentheses needed to go right here. There we go. So spawn asset, current asset, vec3.0, and get the item 0, and we're waiting all that to happen. And that should do the trick. Control save. So now that we have this set up, we do need some more times of day to see this actually shifting, since currently it's not going to actually do anything. It is going really fast though, and there is one way to visually see this occurring. The item will be spawning at 0, 0. So here's our current active skydome. We'll go ahead and turn this one off so that we see the regular skybox just for this demo. And then at the bottom of our hierarchy, we should see the asset spawn in on world start, and then we should see it delete and spawn a new one. So we'll go ahead and say world simulation on. We can see the skydome came in. Here it is at the bottom. And then it should be swapping these out. You can see it just clicked over there. There's a little bit of a flicker. Not great. I'm thinking we might want to spawn one before. Yeah. Okay. We're going to fix that flicker by doing this slightly differently. Good news is it's working. And also, I do want to, before I forget, make sure to set the gizmo to active. This gizmo, it is set to active. Interesting. Oh, yeah, so this is still not functioning. Last we checked, at least. I think it's been off for like a few hours, so I'm not expecting it to come back online during the video. Let's see. Right down here, when we spawn the start gizmo, that's fine. When we check for skydome shift, we are deleting the asset and we're awaiting the delete. I kind of think if we just delete this await, it's going to start this process and then we're going to overwrite it and it's just going to work. But I'm kind of thinking we need to reverse this. So what we need to do is say Control X right here, type constant new skydome. There's the new skydome. We'll use a capital D to make it happy. They have the spell checker installed. And we start the new skydome right here. Now this is going to occur before we start deleting. And then after we finish deleting, we can then say current spawn skydome equals new skydome. And new skydome is listed as an entity, so that looks good. It's the color is different because it's a constant, whereas this is one that can be overridden, like it can be adjusted. So this is basically a let. Okay. Now that should get rid of the flickering. We just need to come up with some new daytimes, and I believe I have some in here that we can share. So let me pull one out. First, I'd like to copy the position of my skybox there. Go to Asset Library. Go to My Assets. Go to Gen AI Assets. Anime Style Summer Sky. Let's see if this looks good. Let me scroll that down a little bit. Oh, not bad. This could be a sunset, potentially. It's also a good sunrise. Maybe we'll use the other one as sunset and this one as sunrise. Sure. All right, paste position, so that's moved over to here. Slide that up. And then what I want to do is make sure it matches the other one's settings. So I set this to extended, and genuinely you're going to have to create new assets to have your own voice settings, like in turning off the grid or turning on the grid, whatever you want to do. Like each of these, it's so much work. But once it's done and the asset is saved in your asset library, you're going to be good to go. We could adjust the custom light intensity to make it brighter. I think we did do that here. We set it to 2. So let's go and set this one to 2 as well. And then ooh, wrong position. So back to 1. I meant to check custom light intensity and set that to 2. Very nice. And notice that there isn't a lot of geometry in here, so it applies the effect pretty quickly. Now, I'm also going to notice that this sun, if we click apply right here, active, is right there. So this maybe works as a good middle of the day, high noon. Whereas this one's going to work as a good sunrise. So let's right click, or no, I need to go into my assets, time of day assets, change this one, and we'll call this one noon, because I don't know if I have a better noon. And then this one will be our sunrise. So right click, create asset, save it into the time of day assets folder, name this one sunrise, and create. Now we'll go into sunrise and we'll copy that. Now we're going to go down to our data file. And here we have 9 a.m. representing our kind of noon. That's when the day starts. So we're going to say that this one is saved as noon. This one is going to be sunrise, which we'll update now. Control V, Control Save. All right, so we got 2. We just need a evening sunset, a nighttime, and then a special middle of the night surprise. So, or early morning surprise, so to say. So let's go back and see what else we can find. I like having them in the world so I can just quickly turn them off and on to test out what those look like. Where are my AI assets? There it is. Anime style summer. I don't know, those all look the same. Bright sky with fluffy anime clouds. I probably need something that's not bright sky anymore. Paste position, don't have position. Copy position, copy position. Paste, slide up, nice. Okay, is this the same? This looks the same. Why did that? I pulled out the wrong asset is what it did. Let's pull out cartoon sky. Okay, that's interesting. Double rainbows are nice. Definitely doesn't look like sunrise or sunset. It's a nice middle of the day option. But the trees kind of throw it all off, doesn't it? Delete. Let's try this one. All right, now we got a much better noon. We could use the other one as sunset and use this one as our day sky. Paste, let's do that. I don't know how many of these we have due to the non-ability to use the generation tool right now. Custom light intensity, 2. Grid off. VoIP settings extended. All right, that is all matched up. Now I want to save this. And so I'm going to go to, I'm just going to pause for a second and do this all off camera. All right, we are back. I've got our 5 assets in. I did adjust the time to be 0, so it actually would be right at midnight. And with that, I think we are ready to try this out. If we want to just double check, my time right now is 11:07 a.m., which means the closest time to me is the noon time. So it should select noon. And then I guess after a certain period of the day, it is going to start selecting sunset. That's kind of interesting. Might be wise to have another midday or something, so it doesn't have sun. Because right now sunset will be selected most often in the evening. That's okay. You get a very long sunset most of the time. Well, I'll play with this in my own world later. Just adding more should take care of it. Oh. Whoa. This is Midnight Surprise. That was not supposed to come up. Wait, what? Oh, is it really just cycling that fast at 6,000? Preview from here. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I guess it is just cycling that fast. Okay. Let's slow the counter down just a hair. Well, you saw the surprise. I was hoping to make it a surprise. I guess that's not going to happen. I like to select the text, 3 dots, edit script. Let's change it from 6,000 to 600. Control save. 600 times faster. There we go. You don't want to run this too fast because the asset spawning is happening async, and if they do start asset spawning them overlapping each other, that's going to lead to some problems. But with any normal amount of time, it should be fine. It says 11 a.m. It must think 0 is noon. Somehow it's thinking 0 is noon. How is that occurring? 1. Let's see if it changes at 7 p.m. Somehow I might have my numbers off somewhere. How is this occurring? I thought the math checked out, but... Okay, it changed at 5 p.m. to sunset. This is definitely sunset. It's the starting one that's off. So the math on start is the problem. Then Starfield hits at night. And then... if I'm right, we should get the Midnight Surprise right at midnight. Almost there. Midnight Surprise, nice. There was almost a flicker there that I didn't really love. We'll have to look into that just a little bit more in a minute. I want to first solve this start problem. So we call sync local time. And then we spawn start gizmo. This should happen after the local time has been synced. I wonder if it's not syncing, like it's somehow not async. Like if we type async start, maybe like date, getting the date maybe takes more time than expected. I have a utility that I haven't added to this world yet, but I was planning to add anyway. It's called async utils. Let's go quickly add it. It will mean this script requires async utils. Okay, maybe we won't do that. Oh, man. It's definitely the way to go. Never mind, let's just do this. We'll do it the easy way, the way that I would show you had I not had an async utility. My async utility is pretty sweet, guys. I will love to show you it some other time, though. So we type async dot set timeout, parentheses, parentheses, arrow function, curly braces. We're going to set a timeout for 1 frame, 50 milliseconds, which is roughly 1 frame, and then we'll spawn the start gizmo. I'm thinking that's the problem. It's a good guess at the very least. We could also sync local time and pre-start, but yeah, this should be fine. Let's go to World's Desktop Editor, Console, Clear, World Simulation on. Nope, still spawning the wrong one. Oh wait, did that? Oh no, it's because I hit stopped world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's see, why is that spawning the wrong one? It says current time subtract time in minutes. So subtracting 0 from the current time returns that. So thinking. let's see what's happening here. So we're going to type console.log parentheses, and then this is step 1, and I want to add to step 1 with the time in minutes. Okay. Control C, Control V, and then I want to move this in here and call this step 2. And we want to see if it's making it to step 2. And if it makes it to step 2, we also want to know, so plus space slash space plus the, oh, I see the problem. I see what's happening here. I did my math really wrong, but have no fear. I've got this. The closest time was being set to closest time, so it did absolutely nothing. Such a dummy. What I meant to do was save this value right here, Control X, as time difference. So we'll say constant time diff equals Command V, and then we can check if the time difference is less than the closest time, then we can set closest time to the time difference. There we go. That makes sense. Okay. That explains everything. World simulation on. Hey, that's more like it. That is just what I was expecting. Now, if we wanted to just very quickly prevent the sunset from spawning early, we could set Control C, Control V, the exact same asset for the evening at like 16.5. So only if you are really close to sunset is it actually going to spawn sunset instead. And the idea behind this getting the closest value is to make it so that rather than getting like the value before, is to make it so that if we are close to sunset or night, that we don't spawn them immediately. Like we don't want to load in and then 1 minute later that changes over. It just would be uncomfortable for the user, so this makes the experience a little bit more comfortable for people starting a new session. Okay, I think we're done. I think we finished it. I'm pretty confident that was all the things on my to-do list. So pretty awesome. Preview world. We wanted to look through why this was looking kind of glitchy in the evening. So we actually have this swapping out the current SkyDome with the exact SkyDome. And according to our async awaits, it shouldn't cause any flickering because we're waiting everything. But I think when it hits, what was it, 4:30 p.m. is when we said 16:30. So in just 1 hour now, it's going to flicker. Let's see it. And here it goes any second now. No flicker. Interesting. No flicker there either. That is peculiar. It does seem to be working. Maybe it works well. I'll tell you, if you are seeing flickering in your world, potentially because like you have too many things or you're changing the sky domes too frequently, or for some other reason, let's wait for this to get to midnight and see if we have any other issues. 9. What I would say is we can add a delay before deleting the current. We can just, in that async that we have created, we can add a delay. Creating a delay is a little bit difficult. I would recommend learning this one on your own. I have an async utility for it. I feel like that was okay. I think this is the one that flickered. I couldn't see it in time. My brain was talking, sorry. But it seemed fine. Like it didn't seem too bad. But like I literally blinked and I missed it. So I think we're okay. The point is, if you are getting some flickering like in the published version of this world or something, I'll probably try and fix the asset before we publish it in that case, because I am working on this before this asset's going to get published into the asset library. What was this saying? Sorry, I want to watch this one carefully. 7:30 coming up. Huh. It does seem to flicker. I think it's okay though. It looked like it was just loading in odd. I think it's okay. I feel like that's just how it is. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but I have an async utility that allows you to add a delay inside of an async method where you just type like await delay and it works amazing. Anyway, we're done. I can't believe it. All right, guys. I guess I got to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out with me for this hour and a half. We did it. We've got a really cool new video. I hope that like taught you a lot of cool math and things, and I had fun doing it too. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!